All right, everyone. So, in this video, we're going to talk about chapter 29 and focus on the last three sections. Section 5, Greek drama, section 6, Greek philosophy, and section 7, Greek sports. So, in the first video, we talked about architecture and sculpture and the importance of those two elements in ancient Greece. Now we're going to talk about drama. So, drama also an incredibly important part of Athenian everyday life. Drama means the art of theater. One specific theater that this section talks about is the Theater of Dionysus, which is located in Athens, and it was said that this theater could accommodate thousands of people. So Dionysus is a god, and he was the god of merriment, okay? So entertainment, and that's why the theater was named after him. So there was many different songs, many different dances that they would perform at harvest time to honor Dionysus, and so theater develops from that type of entertainment. And there would be playwrights. So a playwright is somebody who would create this theatrical performances, and they began to write plays that would tell different stories about the gods and the goddesses. There would be some main characters, and then there would be a chorus. So you need to know what the chorus is. A chorus is not like a group of people who sing songs. That's maybe what we think of when we think of like a modern day chorus. But back in ancient Greece, a chorus was a group of men who would sort of recite the lines and comment on the actions of the main character. Think of them as sort of the narrator, okay? So they would sort of help the story move along and explain what was going on in the story for the audience. And expand on the story as well. So that's what the chorus would do. There, unfortunately, are no women actors in ancient Greece. All the men played all of the characters. They would play both male and female characters. They would even wear masks as well. The masks are decorated, so like very detailed, so the audience could see like what the emotions were. So like maybe it was a mask that had like a sad face, so you know that the character was like feeling sad at that moment, etc. The plays were held in these open air theaters. We call them amphitheaters, and they were usually built into the sides of the hills. Now they're shaped like a bowl, and we have these theaters still today. It's really important because the acoustics let us hear, everybody who's sitting here, hear what is being said on the stage because of the way that the theater is shaped. So it's in a semicircle. The stage is at the bottom of the bowl. There would be scenery that's painted on canvas and hung up behind the actors. They even had competitions that might last for days, and then there was 4 different categories. So you have like a tragic playwright, which is like a play that was a tragedy, a comic playwright, a play that not so much comedic. Comedy back then did not mean like ha ha ha, laugh laugh laugh, but comedy just meant that nobody died in the play. It wasn't tragic. There wasn't a terrible ending. So it was just like a happier type of play. A leading tragic actor and a leading comic actor. And then they were crowned. Any of the winners were crowned with olive leaves. They would receive figs, which was sort of like a delicacy back then. But this is a great example of a theater, the ruins of one of the old stone theaters. This is the Herodes Atticus. It's still available or visible in Athens. It could hold up to 5,000 people, which is crazy, and it was built in the year 161 CE. So pretty cool. All right, so I want you guys to check for understanding and the reading notes 1 and 2, so not a lot, coming from there. Okay, Greek philosophy. Philosophy is the art of thinking, okay? It is the study of knowledge. Greeks love to talk and argue. They would find themselves in the agora and gathering and discussing just the world problems. They would talk about nature, exchanging ideas, how things functioned in life, what did things consist of. They would talk about things that they couldn't typically see, like the meaning of life and justice and truth and beauty. Philosophy literally means the love of wisdom. And a lot of incredible philosophers came out of ancient Greece. The first one is going to be Socrates, and we've talked about Socrates before. And he encourages people to question everything around them. And he says, like, the way that you find truth is by asking questions. Like, for example, what makes a good life? What is truth? How do we know this? And it makes people consider their beliefs and sort of continue to ask questions and therefore gain understanding of things. So people are welcoming these new ideas, but this constant questioning seems to bring Socrates into trouble. His enemies are accusing him of dishonoring the gods, leading people into error and disloyalty from their religion. And so he's brought to trial in the year 399 BCE. He is defending himself. He just says that he was the wisest man in Greece because he recognizes how little he knew. And that is sort of hard to wrap our mind around. But like basically what he's saying is that once we come to the understanding that we truly know so little, then it makes us very wise in regards to that. Like we know so little, yet we want to ask questions and learn more. So like once you realize that you're not the smartest person and know everything, then that's when you can truly start to learn. Well, the jury finds him guilty and they sentence him to death. And his school, a lot of these philosophers actually had followings of people, and they were considered to be like the school of Socrates. But the people at his school, his friends, they were telling him that he needs to escape from Athens. And he insists that he has to honor the law. And he dies by drinking hemlock. So hemlock is the juice from a poisonous plant that basically just puts you to sleep. And sadly, you die. So he is drinking. This picture right here shows him drinking the hemlock, and all of his friends and his followers are just so upset and don't want it to happen. So Socrates, though, inspires many other thinkers that come out of ancient Greece, and some of them you might have heard of. So Plato was one of his students, and then Plato in part turns around and teaches another great philosopher, Aristotle. And so we continue to learn a lot about Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle as we continue on. So I want you to go ahead, pause, do the check for understanding, and then fill in these reading notes 1, 2, and 3. All right, our last one is sports. This is an easier section. It is super short. So we know that the Greeks were very interested in education and thinking, but they were even more so focused on sports. And they truly prized physical fitness. And so their sporting events honored their gods and goddesses. And we learned a little bit about the Panathenaic Games last week, right? It was a festival that honored the goddess Athena in Athens. And so they would have this big procession. Think of it like as the Olympics. Like they have the big procession, the big ceremony in the beginning. They would have a little bit more of like a religious feeling to it for Athena. more so than we see. We take the religious component out of it for our modern day Olympics. And then they would have a series of events where there was horse races, chariot races, one event where men are jumping on and off moving chariots. They competed in foot races. One race, they have men running in their armor, so you can imagine how challenging that might be. They also have combat sports like boxing and wrestling. There is a certain event that they had called the Pancratium, and this is where men were allowed to punch and kick and even choke each other. And then the way that somebody wins is either somebody dies, loses consciousness, or the fighter ends up surrendering. So we obviously don't have an event like that in our more modern day Olympics, but something that they had back then. Now, the bigger sporting event that they would have was the actual Olympics. We continue to have our modern day Olympics that are very, very similar to the events that started back in ancient Greece. So originally, this set of games was to honor Zeus. It was played every 4 years, just like how we have now. Very, very meaningful to the Greeks because every city-state participated. And as you know, there was a lot of war. There was constant battles between these city-states. But every 4 years, they would call a truce. And everyone would sort of just drop their weapons, stop the fighting, stop all the wars, and everyone could travel safely to the games that were held at Olympia. So you're going to do check for understanding, fill in these reading notes for me, 1, 2, and 3. And that is it for this chapter.